Oh, hello, good people of the world. Let's send out a tweet. A little bird went tweet, tweet. I hate how they make you put these codes on the fucking iPad. It's the dumbest thing ever. What? Like, I give a fuck if somebody gets into my iPad. Fuck, you found it, you own it now. Unless you want to give it back to me. So, anyways, give me a second here. All right. Oh, I got my sludge here. It's the same sludge the Queen drinks. It's actually not that. It's nothing special. Thought it would be since the Queen drinks it, but guess what? I think Coca-Cola is better. But it has a unique flavor. It's certainly something I never tasted before. So anyways, it's time to do some dabs. Fuck up our fucking shit real fucking good. Well, yeah. Yeah, folks, there were some people on the show earlier when I was inside playing music that thought Jimi Hendrix wasn't murdered. And just to confirm that for you, he was murdered. It's well documented by his manager for fucking his life insurance policy. And back then, black men had no value at all, meaning nobody investigated this. And a matter of fact, his manager would admit to it by about 1975, and nobody gives a fuck anyways. And so there you go. But had he murdered, let's say, Elvis Presley, he'd be in a cell right now, probably still, you know? And so that's how it goes. But that ain't what happened to all the people who died at the age of 27, folks, the magic number. Some of them did die of drug overdose. There was Janis Joplin, and sadly, folks, she died of a drug overdose, was living the happiest days of her life. It certainly wasn't suicide. And about 4 other people would die from a drug overdose who bought drugs from the same dealer she did within a week of her death. And so it was just unlucky for her. Then there's Jim Morrison, folks. Well, we don't know what happened to him. This one is a real oddball thing. Not even his family knows, folks. Nobody ever got to see Jim Morrison's body dead except for some police officer in fucking Paris, basically. The family never got to see him. Nobody did. He went in the ground. He was exhumed to confirm that he was even in the ground because his family was hearing conspiracy stories that he wasn't even dead. And they were like, yeah, Jim was kind of a weird guy. He may have faked his death. Even the family was starting to think that. And so they had his body dug up to confirm, is that Jim Morrison in the ground? And yeah, it's Jim Morrison in the ground. And who knows, was he murdered by the record label? Some people think so. Did he die of overdose? Some people think so too. He was a depressed man. Did he commit suicide? Quite likely. And so it's hard to say though, because of the weird surroundings around it. But like I said, back then, folks, because he was a rock star and sung the kind of music he sung, his life was as valuable as a black man like Jimi Hendrix. And so nobody gave a fuck. And there certainly wasn't any investigation done, right? It's not like today where, they'd be checking this shit out. There would be no mystery. There'd be fucking investigation after investigation. You know how we do it now. And so, and then, folks, there's Kurt Cobain, who shot himself with a shotgun, which I don't know if you've ever owned a shotgun, folks, but the barrel, it's like about this long, and you kind of need, it's hard to say if he really did that or not. I find it kind of weird, because it's kind of hard to shoot yourself, but supposedly there was people that witnessed it and said, yeah, he shot himself. And so he was able to reach the trigger and do what he had to do. And that's that. And yeah, and that's about the whole group of them, Those are the big ones, that are mysterious. Elvis Presley, he died at a very late age, so he's not in the 27 range, but he was killed by basically his record company, who Elvis was starting to get seriously depressed and become a chronic alcoholic and drug user. He used to sit and fart and burp on stage, forget the lyrics, pass out, do lines of coke on the edge of a guitar. And I think management felt that this guy is devaluing the music we work so hard to become number one. And they were like, something needs to be done. And so his rock and roll doctor made sure to pump him full of as many drugs as possible until he finally died of what they would call a suicide. But his doctor, folks, would cover it all up, would lie on the autopsy and everything. And it would take 5-6 years before we even knew Elvis was dead from drug overdose. They tried to just say it was natural causes at first. He had a heart attack. That was the original story, folks. But later on it came out, and because it came out, contracts like Alice's would never happen again. Unfortunately, the contract of giving you a rock and roll doctor, well, that part's uncontrollable, right? And they would use that same method to kill fucking Michael Jackson. You see, folks, they don't just go, yeah, can you go kill this guy? Here's some money. No, that ain't how they do it. That's how you end up in fucking prison. No, they're a little more slick than that, folks. They just hire some rock and roll doctor who's totally incompetent. They know what it takes to be around somebody like Michael Jackson, who's difficult to say no to. It takes a certain kind of person to work with him and to be able to handle him. And they knew we could just send some guy who has no fucking clue, runs a clinic, never dealt with somebody like this, and he'll likely make a mistake. That's basically what they're counting on. And the poor doctor, he will be the fucking fall guy. And that's what he really is, the poor doctor, because he was just a fall guy, folks. That's why he was black. You notice his doctor was black? Yeah, because let me tell you, the most black-hating people in the world, right, run the music industry. Oh, yeah. And so that's why they gave him a black doctor, because they wanted to, that's their fall guy. They ain't going to use a white guy to go to prison. No. White people don't go to prison for that. And so that's how that is. Michael Jackson was suspicious already when he had a black doctor, and actually phoned his bodyguard the night before he died saying, please get here, something's wrong, things aren't right here, please come help me, save me from these people. Unfortunately, his bodyguard had plans to leave the next morning on a plane. When he woke up that morning to take the plane to go be with Michael Jackson to figure out what the hell's going on with this black doctor, his bodyguard turned on the news while he was getting ready and heard on the news Michael Jackson is now dead. Oh yeah. And so Michael knew there was something up already. He wasn't born yesterday, but unfortunately he had a problem, and this doctor was not the guy who should be working with him, you know? So here we go, fire in the hole. Yeah, Michael was suspicious the minute his doctor walked in the door, and he was black. He was like, whoa, I know these people don't hire black men because they like them. You know? Wasn't born yesterday. And so that was that. He had already exposed the industry. He had bought out all of Sony's fucking entertainment, which is almost all the pop music ever written in history. So now he had already owned pretty much all the music ever written in history, making him the king of the music industry now, really. And he had put those people bankrupt. He had already targeted them by name, going to the media, that Mr. Mandela, whatever the fuck his name was, that was married to Mariah Carey, who used to run the division. He had already exposed him as the biggest lowlife on the planet, which is basically some of the words he used to describe the guy. And yeah, it was a little late for that. That had already been done. That was a done and over with. No, that ain't why they killed him, because they just had enough. He is bankrupting them. And that's why they killed him. It was over money. And unfortunately, killing him didn't get their money back, but at least it knew he wasn't going to take any more, right? Every day Michael Jackson stayed alive, he thought of another way to fucking take these scumbags down. And they were like, we've just had fucking enough. We're going broke here. And these aren't losses in the millions, folks. These kinds of people can handle that. They'd be like, whatever, who the fuck cares? These are losses in the billions, in the double-digit billions. People die for that shit. Oh, they do. It's a no-brainer, you know? You cost somebody that kind of money, they're going to come around and visit. It's probably not going to be a friendly visit, you know? And like I said earlier, Sony hasn't made a dime. Every year they're running their company, they lose money. And ever since Michael Jackson took over the entertainment industry, they weren't able to make their cameras for next to nothing anymore. So all their cameras went up in price. And then they lost another industry. See, movies used to always be made by Sony cameras. But after Michael Jackson took over the entertainment industry and they had to raise the price on their cameras, the movie industry was like, no thanks, we'll take a pass. And they don't buy Sony equipment anymore. You don't see Sony at the bottom of the movie anymore. No. See some no-name company. I think it starts with an A. I forget what it's called. And so, yeah, he got him good. They're still suffering to this day. Still not making any money. Meanwhile, his family, who owns all those rights that they took from Sony, just sold the rights to the Beatles for almost $1 billion. You know, when Michael Jackson bought those rights, folks, he paid like $34 million. People laughed at him. They were like, are you stupid? You're never going to you won't live long enough to see a return on that. Those songs just ain't worth that much fucking money. And people were like, this guy's the dumbest fucking guy with this deal. Even the own Beatles members couldn't afford to outbid him. They were like, whoa, what kind of offer is that? Well, I guess it's out of my league. And so people laughed, but he only paid $34 million. Sold it. His kids just recently sold it. I forget the figure. It's like $500 or $600 million. It's a pretty good return. Seems to me like he made a pretty wise investment there. And that's just the Beatles. There's thousands of other bands they still own the rights to, right? And so his family is taken care of forever. Literally. Unless somebody becomes really stupid and does something really stupid. They literally run the music industry, his kids. Oh, look at this. Nice big fat dab of the Chemdwag. No, Prince, you know what I think happened to Prince? His was an accidental death. I'm pretty sure of it. Prince ain't a guy who fucking goes around talking about anyone. He don't talk to the media, period. Even more so than Michael Jackson. He had learned from previous people that talking to the media and going on talk shows isn't doing you any favors. And so, no, I believe Prince died by accident. What happened was, folks, is Prince was a health nut. He didn't do drugs. He didn't drink alcohol. He was a vegetarian, right? And he was in the middle of a harsh tour that was causing him some grief. And he asked the record company if he could have a doctor because, you know, he was not feeling the best and he wants to be on his best to do his shows. And so the record company's like, not a problem. Let's send you one of our rock and roll doctors over there. No problem at all. And the rock and roll doctor shows up and Prince is like, I'm in a lot of fucking pain. I don't know how I'm going to do it. And the rock and roll doctor's like, here, take this. You'll feel a lot better. And a few hours later, Prince was dead. I think it's just the rock and roll doctor didn't realize who he was, the kind of health nut he was dealing with, somebody who had a zero tolerance to drugs. You know, he figured he was just another rock star who does lots of drugs. And so that's how that went down. And that's why his doctor was never like gone to court or anything like that, you know? But as we know, Michael Jackson's doctor went to jail. And there's a good reason for it. That propanol he was taking, folks, supposedly to go to sleep. You know, taking propanol to go to sleep is like, it's like having chemotherapy to get a haircut. It's just not the way you go about it, you know? Nobody goes about it this way anywhere in the world. And so it was a very unique situation. And they're just like, why are you giving him this in his own home? You know, it's criminal. It doesn't matter how much he paid and how much he begged. It's still criminal. You're supposed to have the ability to say, sorry, Michael, I can't do that. You know? And that's why they hired this doctor, because he didn't have the ability to say, sorry, Michael, I can't do that when he begged and pleaded. Anyways, fire in the hall. Just like when you go to the clinic, they're like, we don't prescribe fucking oxys and painkillers, you know? Yeah, a doctor's supposed to be taking care of your health, not taking care of your requests, you know? But anyways, he went to jail, and that actually sent a big message to the other rock and roll doctors, white or black, that this shit ain't being tolerated anymore. And we better be a little more careful. Did Yep, Liberace was another crazy death, folks. Liberace would die. They would say he died of a heart attack, even though his doctor knew he had AIDS for 2 years before he died. His doctor would falsify, just like Elvis, the autopsy and all the death records, which, as we know, is criminal. His doctor would go to jail, but for all that falsifying of documents, not for killing anybody, because he didn't really do that. Because Liberace died of AIDS, nobody killed him. And so, but his doctor would lie about all that just because Liberace asked him to, and faithful even after death, folks. It's unbelievable, really. And so, but he would do all that. And years later, we would finally discover that Liberace had AIDS. He's having sex every night, folks, knowing he had AIDS for 2 years. Who the fuck knows how many people he infected, right? It's probably in the thousands. And then they would infect more. He's probably the source of the fucking huge entertainment death rate of AIDS. I wouldn't doubt it. And so, yeah, that doctor would lie. And we wouldn't know that Liberace had AIDS or was even, well, most people thought he was gay, but, you know, officially be gay, for another like 5 or 6 years after his death. And suddenly it would come out that his doctor's being arrested, that he lied on all these documents, that fucking Liberace had AIDS for 2 years before he even died. And if you were hanging out with Liberace during this time, you better get fucking tested. And oh, fuck. That's why Liberace's estate has no money anymore. As you can imagine, people sued. Oh, yeah. did. But recently, folks, I see on YouTube that Liberace's house in Las Vegas, which was falling apart, and it was kind of tragic because the place was kind of special and very unique, has been or is being renovated and being turned into a museum so that people can come in and see how Liberace once lived. And they're making it look like the glory days when he used to walk the halls. And so that's really nice that they're going to bring that house back to life. It would have been a shame to see a wrecking ball go through it, which was basically what was about to happen. Like Las Vegas has a lot of unique houses, but this one is, I mean, there was nobody like Liberace. He was as extravagant and as outrageous as they can be. I mean, more so than the Queen. His outfits, I mean, he never wore the same pair of pants twice. You know what I'm saying? Just like the Queen. And he used to drive his car on stage. And I mean, weekly there'd be a different car. And I mean, these weren't shitty cars. These were like one of a kind Rolls Royces. Oh, you know, he doesn't drive a car that somebody else can buy. All his cars were one of a kind. He was as extravagant as a man can be. He was the highest paid entertainer in the world while he was alive. So Liberace's death was a pretty big deal. It was huge news. But yeah, no, it's cool that they're going to bring his house back. Too bad I'll never see it. I got to see his house when I was in Las Vegas, but when I saw it, well, we were able to walk right on the property, hop through a broken window, and look around. But sadly, folks, what I saw was sad and depressing. A house that was destined for a wrecking ball, not even safe to walk on, walked on the floors inside, had severe water damage, holes in the ceiling, roof, a yard that was just overgrown in every way, which a lot of the overgrowth was damaging the house because it was growing through the walls of the house. And it was just like a house destined to be fucking torn down. It was sad and depressing to see. And so to see what it's become now, it will be exciting. Unfortunately, I don't travel anymore to the United States, so I wouldn't know. Yeah, I have sat in the Batmobile, the 1950s Batmobile. I just happen to know the guy who owns it, you know? And so he was displaying it at a show. You know, one of these comic book shows, people pay like $30 to stand 20 feet from it. I didn't know my friend owned the Batmobile. I just knew the guy, right? And from other things. And then I'm one of the people standing, 150 feet away from it behind the barrier, who paid the $40. And then there's my friend standing next to the Batmobile. And I'm like, hey, Greg. It's like, hey, Steve. Hey. Oh, that's my friend. Let him in. Before I know it, me and my kids are under the rope and standing next to the Batmobile. It's like, hey, you want to sit in the Batmobile? I'm like, yeah, we do. Oh. Here, give me your phone. I'll take some pictures of you in my Batmobile. This is fucking awesome, Steve. And so, yeah, it was good times. We had a good day that day. When I left and got out, went back under the fence, people were all like talking to me. They're like, oh man, you were in the Batmobile. Who are you? They think I'm like somebody famous or something. I'm like, oh, I'm just friends with the guy who owns it. He's just some wacky car collector, right? I didn't know he owned that. And most of his cars he actually purchases. Like he buys movie cars, but that car he didn't actually buy. His grandfather built it and designed it for the TV show, and then it fell apart and ruined, sitting in his garage, and got all rusty and deteriorated. And well, they were going to crush it because it was beyond repair, especially the round glass. Anybody you know about car glass, to get it curved custom like that, well, that's fucking expensive shit if you can even get it done at all. Sometimes it don't matter how much money you have. And so it's only so many places that do it. And so it wasn't looking good. It sat for, let's say, 40 years. And then finally it was down to basically a frame and a few pieces here and there. And so he took it apart and decided to rebuild it from a more modern frame because that frame was falling apart. And so he took pieces of the body and put it on like a Lincoln from 1982 or something. But it looks exactly the same as when it was in the 1950s, but it's just got a better suspension now. And all the gadgets are inside, and you see me, I took pictures, and you see me and kid talking on the bat phone and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, but most of it's fake, like the fire that shoots out the back. Yeah, he's like, here's the thing that does that, but it actually doesn't make the car move. It's not nitrous oxide or anything like that. He's like, it's just a big flamethrower. And so yeah, he had it, put everything back in there. He even put the curved glass back in, which he told me himself was not cheap. Because I mentioned, I'm like, holy fuck, this curved glass, if you had to replace this. He's like, don't ask. You know, it was ridiculous. He told me it took him 5 years to get it. Ordered it from some company in Germany, and it took him 5 years before they actually sent it to him. That's what I said. It's hard to even get that shit. Doesn't matter how much you want to pay. Oh, there you go. Big, huge dab. I got my soda here that the Queen drinks. It's okay. It's nothing special. The Frontman's is much better. And so next time when we want to spend that much on soda, we'll be buying the Frontman's. We won't take the Queen's of Ice on soda anymore. Doesn't seem to be very good. Like, it's drinkable, but for the price it cost, I could have bought a Sprite, you know, and mixed it with a club soda, and I'd probably get the same thing. And so, and save myself a lot of money. And so, yeah, and maybe a little bit of orange. I think there's a tad of orange in this. Let me double check here. Yeah, maybe like a tangerine something juice. Really little bit. Quarter of a shot. Just a little, you know, to give it an after flavor. And so, anyways, I should have known. It's made in Scotland. You know, folks, people in Scotland, they eat food, well, that most people around the world don't consider edible. You know? No, they do. So anyways, Here we go. Big fat dab. Fire in the hall. Oh, wow. Oh, fuck. And so, it's just not a cola that's worth paying $2 a can for, you know? I could have bought cheap ass Coca Cola products and probably made the exact same thing. So, that's how it is. You know, I can buy Sprite in the can for like 45 cents a can. So, you know, it's a big difference here. So, yeah, it should be something that's gourmet, decadent when it's in that price tag. And I just don't think it is. It's not like the Fentmans. You know, that Fentmans, that stuff's like, you know, they've given it all the love you can possibly give it. Oh, it is. Stuff's fucking good shit. No, Frontman's is a cola. It's just, it's done so well. It's unbelievably tasty. It's decadent, gourmet, you know, next level. The way it should be. Made with real ground cola bean and the old fashioned method being fermented in the bottle. Mm. The way people used to drink soda back in the old days. And then just made with fine ingredients, you know? And so that's all. Just giving it love. Making it like you're making it for your family members. Like Coca-Cola is fine and all, but that flavor they've created does not really even resemble a cola bean. And I actually believe, because the way it tastes doesn't really resemble much of it, that it's actually some sort of flavor that they've extracted from the cola bean. That's some, like, you know, something they've made in a lab, because that's a good way of making your ingredients hard to fucking figure out. And and uh, and then add it instead of grinding cola bean up and steaming water through it, right? And so that's what I think they do. They just have some product that they make from the cola bean, an extract of some sort, and add it and it's definitely a little different. But it's also good shit. But it's not gourmet or decadent or anything. It's very generic, you know. It's Coca-Cola. Oh yeah, root beer is good. Root beer comes in a lot greater diversity than colas, you know. But yeah, you can get root beer that's spicy, or root beer that's creamy, or root beer that's sharp, or comes in so many ways. Root beer that's just sweet and creamy, or sweet and that's it. Root beer with sarsaparilla in it, which is a totally different flavor altogether. Just it's endless. They call 1,000 different drinks root beer. Anyways, gonna do the big fat dab here. Oh, do you know what? I'm gonna get some more of my whatever this shit's called. IRNBRU. I guess it's Scottish, folks. You know, these Scottish people, they talk funny too. They don't just eat weird food. And so there we go. I know, my grandfather was Scottish. And so. That's how it is. So I'm gonna go get another one. And so the heat wave's over now today, folks. It's like a little bit of a chill outside. I'm gonna have to put my pants on. It's probably only 20 degrees, something like that. It is the middle of the night though. But I mean today it was like 34 degrees. So it's not that bad. But yeah, I don't recommend paying what I buying this if you live in Canada. It's just not worth what it cost here. Like I say, it's basically a Sprite mixed with like a Canito and some sort of orange flavoring. Yeah, it's a unique flavor, but I don't think it's worth the big bucks. So, anyways, just because I think I can replicate it for much less. And so, Yeah, this is the BRU. This is the stuff the Queen recommended on her website, her Instagram page, just like yesterday. So she's hanging out with the guy who owns it, drinking a bottle of it. So I thought I'd buy it, even though it was very expensive and I'd never tried it before. And but yeah, it's very, very unique. That's for sure. I give it that. There's nothing in North America like it. Anyways, Fire in the Hall. Oh, look, I don't know that other one you're talking about, Dan. Do you know, the funny thing is, before today, I'd never even seen these orange cans before in my life. It's so bizarre. So I've been in this store a million times and seen their whole soda selection. Never seen these orange cans. Then one day I see the Queen drinking these orange cans. I'm like, I'm gonna go check out the soda store, the one that's best for imported sodas in town, and see if they know anything about this shit, right? And they're like, oh yeah, here it is. And it's like right there on next to everything else. So I'm like, well, there's the good shit that I know right next to it. So it's like bizarre, just suddenly appears. And yeah, so I got some. But yeah, I never seen these cans before. I didn't even see them when I was in England. You know what I saw in England? Orange pop. No lie, folks, that's what it was called. At the airport, they sell orange pop. It's in a can. The can is orange. It says orange pop. Has the little royal symbol at the top. I was like, wow, this is fucking creative shit. And so that's how that is. Or orange soda, actually, I think it was called. Yeah. But I didn't really leave the airport in England because the airport's fucking huge, and though I had many hours between, like almost a day, it took about half a day to get to the place I wanted to go on foot. So, which was just the other end of the airport. I guess that's why they gave me so much time. At first, I was like, why is there such a delay between these two flights? And then you get there and realize, oh, I'm like asking them, oh, how do I get to this? Oh, you're gonna have to take the train, sir. Oh, yeah, it's like fucking way at the other end. Here in Canada, we don't have airports like that, you know? We have airports where you can walk from one end to the other end in like 20-minute stops. No train, no bus giving you a ride from here to there. No, no. We do got some moving sidewalks like on the Jetsons. Oh yeah, I had some tea at the Harold's or whatever fucking store it is. You know, I call it the British bullshit store. They didn't really like me calling it that, but I mean that's all they sell there is British bullshit, right? And so, and things are so simply named, a lot of the stores there, you know. So I thought that's what it should be called. Like a lot of stores are named like the marijuana store in Canada, you know. They're named very straightforward. You know, if they sell tea inside, it's like the fucking tea store. Joe's Tea Store or something shit like that. Oh yeah, very basic shit. Very straightforward. Coffee shop. It's called the coffee shop. You know, here we got all kinds of crazy names for these things. And just keep it simple. There's no mystery of what's going on inside. At least that's what I found in my time. Like, you only get this, they only have so many stores in there, but there was actually hundreds of stores in their airport. It's quite ridiculously huge, like I said. But, yeah, that's what I witnessed mostly. And we were smoking weed while we were in the airport, you know, off those vape pens. And the airport guy goes to Enrico, the guy who's checking our luggage and stuff. He goes, I have that, who sees the vape pen in his pocket. He goes, I have that same vape pen at home. That's what he said to him. Which means he knows exactly what's being smoked in there, you know? So they don't mind tours smoking weed, at least. But I hear if you're local, you might get cuffed and stuffed. That's what they tell me. And so, gonna do a big fat dab here. Get all fucked up. Yeah, you could take every airport in Canada, right? And put them side by side, and it probably still wouldn't be as big as the one in England. That one in England's just a city of its own. You know, you're in a little village. It's Airport Village, kind of thing. La 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 la. Da, da, da. Oh yeah, weed. We didn't buy any weed while we were there, but we brought our own weed and nobody seemed to care. Though we brought shatter, and folks back then, people didn't know what this shit was. And then I had my sublimator, but I had it all taken apart in pieces. It comes to like 12 different pieces. And one time the guy did go, "What's this?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's a project I'm working on." Oh, cool. Have a good trip. Oh, yeah, because that's all it looks like. It's just a bunch of pieces of metal, right? It's still over their head to this day, folks. I can travel anywhere in the world with my sublimator, and I have. Yeah, there. Because one, you can scrub it to the point you won't find anything on it, because it is metal, and it comes apart in so many pieces that you can work on every little piece. And two, it looks nothing like a smoking device once taken apart. And so nobody's going to be suspicious of it in the first place. And so that's basically it. Gonna do a dab. But yeah, the shadow was way over their head back then. They may now know about it because, well, in Canada it's legal and they sell shatter legally in the marijuana store now. And so I'm sure other countries are up to par on this stuff now, but back then they didn't know it existed, right? So it was just over their head. You could say it was like a food product or some of some sort, or hair cream, or God knows, just make up anything. It's all believable. I mean, they have no clue, right? Oh yeah, yeah. We had like over 100 grams on us, so wasn't like it wasn't hard to find. It was in the suitcase. Suitcase goes through the scanner every time. Nobody ever gets said, what's this, sir? No, it never happened. You know what they used to do though, because I had a laptop, folks, and you know how you have to put your laptop on the thing to go through the scanner, and my laptop says stuff like marijuana man, marijuana leaves all over it, legalize marijuana, marijuana this and that, right? And so for some reason, I'm pretty sure it's because of the laptop, I was always chosen for a random scan. You know how they say it's random, right? Interesting enough, I always got chosen for this so-called random scan. So, I think it had something to do with my laptop. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're like, you can consent to a body search or go through the X-ray. That's usually the choice they give me, and well, I'll take the body search depending on who's doing it. If it's some hot female, but otherwise, we usually chose the X-ray. Oh yeah, that's what we do. But they never like asked to open the suitcase. What's this? Oh, they did once. Oh, this is kind of a funny story. I have, and this is before those became popular too. This is like 20 years ago. One of those laser thermometers, you know? And I guess in the scanner, because it's in the shape of like a weapon of some sort, the lady pulls it out and looks at it, and she looks at me and goes, "Sir, what's this?" Like it's a gun or something. It kind of looks like a gun with the handle and the trigger. And I'm like, it's a thermometer. And she's like, "Oh, yeah?" And I'm like, well, "Yeah, and I'll show you. Just, your, your table here is 32 degrees or whatever." She's like, "Oh, okay." Yeah, pretty good. That's a funny event, actually. Meanwhile, I have drugs in my bag, right? She don't ask me about those. She's interested in the thermometer. So that's how it works. Yeah, that was in Canada. They're so anal when in Canada, folks. Oh, do you know what I like to do when I come back to Canada, right, folks? Is they have this little form that only coming to Canada do you have to fill out. It's like saying who you are, what's your nation of birth, and bullshit like this. You gotta like fill out this form instead of just the basic bullshit questions at the door, right? And so I don't really like the form, right? I don't like this whole fucking ignorant fucking profile system they have running. And so I don't fill out the form. And then when I get off the plane, I kind of drag my leg and I drool from the side of the mouth and talk funny. And then I bring him the form and the guy's like, "Oh, you haven't filled it out." I'm like, I'm illiterate. So then he'll go through it with me. "So what's your name, sir?" And I pull out my ID because I can't talk properly, you know. And I show him my ID, and he fills the fucking thing out the way it should be. Fucking asshole. And so, and you know what? It works really well because they never search my bags or anything. Meanwhile, all my other friends from the same crew, all their bags are being searched, right? But all the drugs are in my bag, anyways. I'm the one drooling and crawling. And so they always just pass me through quite quickly. I'm in and out in 10 minutes. I'm in a taxi. Taxi. My friends, they're still in line dealing with some bullshit. Who knows? I'm at home, still having a shower, texting them, "Hey, what's going on?" "Oh, still at the airport." Oh, yeah. Like every time. It's pretty hilarious. And so, no, gotta do what you gotta do. I have a friend who works airport security. Well, she did for like 30 years. She just recently retired. Yeah. She's like, a lot of times they take your drugs and smoke them at home. Shit happens. Because they can use discretion. Protocol says they're supposed to call security if you have that stuff on you, but they're allowed to use personal discretion. And so they can ask you to toss it in the waste paper basket next to their little scan box there. Basket they give. And this is a particular basket designed to put contraband in, like food products, all kinds of shit, not just drugs. And so it's all good, it's all official. But sometimes some of the things that go in that basket, nothing's really accounted for, you know? Sometimes arrive at people's homes. Oh, it does. So you can always be happy that somebody's smoking your drugs. Yeah, it's not just being wasted and thrown in the garbage. La, 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 la. Oh, la, 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 la. La, 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 la. I was going to get a cavity search one time because all my friends did. This was in the United States because they can be anal too, but usually they're very friendly. But this was after 9/11, and well, only like a day after, it would be my last time traveling there. And they had already done crimes against humanity to my friends. And then there was like a break before they got to me because they're dealing with some crazy shit going out in the parking lot. And then like an hour and a half later, they come back and they're like, "So where did you leave off? Mr. Payne, have you been searched yet?" I'm like, "Holy fuck, you fucking made me bend over and everything." Like I flipped out and yelled it loud, you know? And they're like, "Okay." And they're like, and then we went on to the next thing. So I avoided the whole scenario by just lying about having it already happen. I've learned when talking to law enforcement that, or government officials in general, that making up a story of what they want to hear is usually the best route to go. And if that doesn't work for you, you know, then you move on, you know, to the next tactic, which is just saying nothing at all, right? Oh, yeah, it is. So, anyways, I'm gonna go inside. Look, it sounds like there's a blizzard out here. Hear this? It's like the great winds of north have come to invade. Or maybe it's just the sound of my air conditioner. Hard to say, you know? I can probably shut it off. La la la. So I'm gonna run. This has been a blast. Until next time, peace out.